Alright, I have had a request to do some problems from lesson 1, number 17, 23, and 25. So, in case you missed these, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration on how to do them. Okay, number 17, this one doesn't have a lot of parentheses and brackets like this one does, number 23, so this one's a little bit easier. You want to work inside of parentheses, brackets, and absolute value signs. That would be your first thing. Except we can work from left to right since there's aren't any parentheses or brackets. We can just do these. So 3 squared is 9. Now here's the tricky part for this one. The square is only on the 3, not on the negative sign. So the negative sign is going to stay out there, and we're going to get actually that's not squared. I copied the problem wrong. Forget that. Let's just get rid of that. Yep. Copying the problem is one of the most important things you can do. Anyway, got a little bonus lesson in there. Okay, back to the problem. So we have negative 3, negative 2 cubed. This is the same thing. The negative stays, and we're going to cube the 2, so we get 8. Minus 4 is squared, but not the negative, so we're only going to square the 4. So we're going to get negative 16. Minus, and then we do inside the absolute value, so it'd be negative 2 minus 6. You need to put every step in, because when you start skipping steps, it's really easy to make mistakes. If you find that you don't make mistakes, then you can skip the steps. But if you're making mistakes, even one problem there's a mistake, you need to put the steps in. So I'm going to work from left to right, and I'm just going to add these numbers together. Let's just start adding these two. So I have negative 11 minus 16 minus, and this will be negative 2 minus 6 is a negative 8. And then I'm going to keep working from left to right. Negative 11 minus 26 is a negative 27 minus, now the absolute value of a negative number, an absolute value of any number is positive. So this negative 8 is going to become a positive 8. And finally we're going to get the answer, if we add these together, is negative 35. You can just work your way down a problem showing all the steps. The last thing I want you to do is to do this for your answer and skip all this. If you did this on a test, you would get 0 points if the answer were wrong. And even if the answer were right, I would have trouble giving you full credit. I'd have to talk to you about that. So I want you to see all the steps when you do your homework, all the steps when you do the quiz, all the steps when you do a test. Okay, let's go down to this one. This one's a little bit more complicated. We have absolute values, we have brackets, we have parentheses, we're going to have to deal with order of operation. In case you forget, there's a way to remember your order of operations. It's please, that's an M, that's not a P. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And this stands for, the order of operations would be you do parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction last. So we're going to try to apply this to this problem. So I'm going to start from left to right. I'm going to do what I can, one step at a time. So here we have negative absolute value of negative 3. Well, we know the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. So I'm going to bring that negative down, and instead of this being a negative 3, it's going to become the positive 3. Okay, so we can keep that in parentheses because we're still going to be multiplying it against all this stuff. So we just simplified that outside one. Now I'm going to work from left to right, and I'm going to do what's inside of the parentheses first, because that's our first thing, do inside of parentheses. So I'm going to get 2 minus 7 is negative 5. Negative 3 minus 2 is, again, negative 5. And then when I come over here, I'm going to get negative 2 squared is 4. This is how I would do it. This is about how many steps I would do. I might put one extra step in these problems that I wouldn't do myself, but pretty much I'll do all this work to do the problem. I never just try to do these in my head, and I don't want you to use a calculator to do it either. So then we have our negative 3 out here still. I'm going to work inside of parentheses still. So here's the tricky thing. Inside the parentheses, you have multiplication going on right here, and then you have an addition. you always do the multiplication before you do the addition. So I'm going to take negative 5 times negative 5 before I do negative 5 plus 4. You would do these first. You wouldn't do negative 5 plus 4 and then take it the answer times negative 5. Wrong. Okay, so I'm going to do the multiplication first because multiplication and division become before addition and subtraction. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. And then we have our plus 4. And finally we have negative 3 times 29. And we get our answer of negative 87. These are so much fun. Okay, one more. We're going to do number 25. Move this over here. This one's pretty complicated. We have parentheses. We don't have brackets, but we have absolute value. So here we go, left to right. Inside parentheses first. So negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Okay, I'm going to work inside of my absolute value before I do anything else. That's obvious. So I'm going to copy this down. Negative 7 minus the absolute value of negative 5. And I'm going to end that parenthesis, just cleaning everything up inside first. Minus negative 3 squared would be 9. We keep that negative out there because this whole thing squared is positive 9 and we still have a negative. So left to right once again. Negative times a negative is 5. Okay, we have junk inside of parentheses, so we have to do the junk before we do anything else. So we get negative 7 minus, this becomes positive, and we still have a negative 9. Still going to clean up the parentheses. 5 times negative 12 minus 9. Now we have the thing. Do we take negative 12 minus 9 first, or we do 5 times negative 12 first? Well, you do the multiplication before you do addition or subtraction. So I'm going to get negative 60 minus 9, and our final answer is negative 69. I think I would have done all these steps, even after doing math for so many years. So when I see your homework, I want to see a lot of steps. That way I can tell where you make your error and you'll lose less points on your test and quiz. And also, it'll help you go back and check your answers. And finally, you'll make less mistakes if you show all the steps. So that's it for some of the problems of lesson 1.